Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back once again to another episode of College Football Pros. I am your host, as always, Nicholas Valinchak, and I am joined today by Drew. Drew, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing extremely well. I really am. I mean, we're talking Big 12. We're talking football. Football is less than a month away. I mean, the windows are open here in Ohio. It's beautiful outside. Doing fantastic, man.
So let me ask you a question. What are you doing in preparation for the start of the college football season?
Watching as much TV and from ESPN to CBS to Yahoo, reading all the articles from the offseason. And now that camps have opened, you know, I'm following camps. I'm following the recruiting trail. I'm everywhere, man. I mean, I fully immerse myself in college football. I live, sleep, breathe it. You know, my wife is the same way. She loves college football, diehard Ohio State fan. So, you know, both of us, we're just extremely excited, you know, for this season. I know you're getting ready for a daily fantasy, right?
Oh, yeah. I'm spending a lot of my time right now watching Blue Mountain State, so I expect a really good year out of them. I think they're going to be a strong team this year.
You know, I've never watched that show.
Why?
I don't know.
To me, it's stupid, funny. You have to understand with me, I am either completely and totally overly serious or I am kidding all the time. I still haven't figured it out yet. So I'm
serious for a moment.
I tend to go for stupid humor and like trashy humor, garbage humor. I don't know why, it just entertains me, and that's how I look at that show. Just a bunch of stupidity that I could laugh at.
Yeah, I heard it was good. I just never got into it. Like, it's the same thing with the Trailer Park Boys. Never watched that either, and I hear that's like funny as all get up. I never watched it. I don't know.
Well, to be honest with you, I don't think we can do this podcast together anymore.
No, it's ended it right now. It's over. It's been a good run.
Seriously, you've never seen the Trailer Park Boys?
No, dude. Like, everybody at work is like, man, you need to watch. Just go on Netflix, go on YouTube. I'm like, okay, but I never did.
I've watched that series at least 6 or 7 times all the way through.
Now, let me ask you this. Are you more of a nostalgic kind of like fan where it comes to TV shows, or are you like really, you know, big on today's TV shows?
I can be both because I have like routines. At Christmas time, right, like November, I start to watch Cheers because I'm lucky enough that I have a job that allows me to have two computer screens, and we're allowed to have like white noise in the background. So I'll listen to Cheers and into Frasier. So you're basically watching like 24 years of Kelsey Grammer on television, which is pretty remarkable. I don't know, outside of like soap operas, any real life character, I mean like not Simpsons, not Flintstones, that have had a consistent spot on television for that long.
Well, I mean, he's very dynamic, and it's the whole thing is. I was a fan of that show. But maybe honestly, I love old TV shows, you know, from my childhood, and you know, I was born in '85, so you know, my childhood being the early '90s and stuff like that. You know.
You know what I don't like?
What's that?
Friends.
Yeah. Are you talking like Friends, a TV show, or are you talking like Friends and like me? Like, you don't like me as a friend? Are you talking Friends, a TV show?
When did you start considering yourself my friend? I didn't.
Oh, shit. Nice.
You can't swear.
Why?
Because we're clean.
We're not. Okay, we were clean. It's up until I dropped that word. I apologize to all the censors out there.
It's all right. The right to censor will let you go on that one.
I wonder if anybody got my Lane Storm reference earlier.
I did.
I know you did. I mean, you're a wrestling fan, but I wonder
Should we see if he'll be on the podcast? I don't know if they watch college football in Canada.
I mean, they have Canadian. We could talk Canadian football.
You know what? I watched it because we've got both Jordan Lynch and Rakeem Cato playing up there.
Yeah.
Tino Sunseri's up there. There's a wide variety of people playing up there. I think actually probably within the next half an hour here, it should be on ESPN.
It will indeed.
So I'll probably catch that. But no, back to your question. I do prefer like the older shows. This is just how I am with wrestling too. Like, I will still watch wrestling now, but it's going to be hard for me to be convinced that anything's ever going to be better than, you know, the Hogan run through the 80s into the early 90s, pause for a few years where it was just goofy, and then, you know, the Attitude Era. Like, it's going to be tough to replicate that. I want to see it happen.
Yeah, I mean, I think us as a society have moved past that. The DX, you know, sexual humor, the NWO reality. that we've all moved past that as a society. The anti-establishment, the grunge, the realness of everything is over. And with the explosion of the internet, with all the backstage stuff, everybody knows what's going on. So yeah, I agree with you. That would be so freaking nice to have that Attitude Era back, but it's
well, I think it could be done, but the people in charge just have to understand that they can't run their mouths. Like, you have to have some type of close it off. It doesn't need to be as lavish as it is in terms of some of the scripts that I've seen. Like, the whole way wrestling works is because it's an emotional connection that a fan makes with a performer. That's why Austin was so hot. People related to him. You know what I mean? Like, it's that realness. When people tune out and it's too cartoony, even if they're not doctored up gimmicks like Doink and Bastion Booger, if a person can tell exactly, if a person could tell somebody's just reading from a script, they're going to shut off. But if they believe that they're buying into a real life moment, and that's what people, whether they want to admit it or not, almost watch wrestling for, is because they're buying into it being a real life situation. You're like, oh man, this is about to go down. Like, they make you believe that something that is already planned is just happening organically, like, and I think that's what misses a lot. They try to create it and it can't be created.
Yeah.
At work right now, we're in the process of putting together something that I'm not really going to divulge too much into because I shouldn't. But the moral of the story is, like, we keep coming back to this point where, like, you need to have your customer create what this thing becomes. You can't just tell them, this is what we are. When you do that, you've lost them.
Yeah, and you know what we should do? We should have a wrestling podcast, too. We should do that.
I don't want to watch two things at once.
Like, you just said you did because you're sitting there at work with two computer screens.
But and so college football starts, and I'm going to be watching college football at work.
And instead of going to our website, www.cfbpros.com, or tweeting us at CFBProsDrew and at CFBPros, you're sitting there watching Cheers and working. So you can watch two things at one time.
Can we do a Cheers podcast? I think I'd probably rather do that. Maybe a Frasier. I wouldn't mind talking about wrestling. I like wrestling. You know what I mean? I wouldn't skip a beat about doing it, but I'm not involved with it emotionally enough to where it would really be viable. Right now with college football, like, this is our thing. You know what I mean? It's faith, family, football. Right? I mean, that's almost like how it comes together for me. Food is in there too if I'm keeping with F's.
A lot of F's. What other F words can we throw in there?
Well, there's the obvious F word.
No, this is a PG show, now. Nick. You can't cuss. You just said that.
I didn't. I made an allusion to something.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean,
allergies.
College football is where it's at. If I'm not watching that stuff, honestly, I'm hitting YouTube. I'm streaming a variety of content, just watching some of the bowl games from last year, watching some of the bigger games. ESPN just had their top 25 on, where I saw that.
I felt like it went quick, too.
I saw that Western Kentucky and Marshall made the list but wasn't aired. But I'm 95% sure that's because they only aired games that had been aired on ESPN. I could be wrong.
I don't know. Honestly, that I don't know. I mean, don't they own?
To be honest with you, that was a 67-66 game that effectively kept Marshall from going to one of the New Year's Six bowls. I mean, Marshall would have gone over Boise State. You're not going to leave an undefeated team out, even if they played, 13 cupcakes. And Louisiana Tech, Western Kentucky were not cupcakes. A bunch of the other games were.
I like cupcakes.
But, it always spirals down. You ever notice that? If we could be serious for a moment.
If we can be serious for a moment. No, we can't be serious for a moment.
I think when I release this, we're going to put Lance Storm's face on this. He's going to be like the image for this podcast.
I now seriously want to see if Lance Storm wants to come on and talk college football. I'm not going to lie.
I don't even care if he wants to talk college football. He's Lance Storm. He can talk about whatever he wants.
What if he's serious the whole time, though? Like, that would not be fun.
No way, dude. I'll tell you what. There's nothing that I like more than awkward situations. I have no problem with it. I have no shame. No shame whatsoever.
A lot of these on this podcast already.
Right. Yeah, so I at Christmas time, I had my house was built and we moved in like the week of Thanksgiving or the week before Thanksgiving. So we ended up having Christmas. I'm a huge Christmas guy. I'm sure within the next several weeks I'll get into it more and more. So it was kind of cool for me to have my whole family, and then my girlfriend's family basically all came as well. So we had like a house full of people, and of course there's always some drama. And so like something happened with my brother, and I went to check on him in the guest room, and I caught him and his girlfriend having sex. And
good.
So me being the awkward person I am, I was like, I was going to come in here and cuddle. Is that still permissible, or should I wait? Or is that opportunity just dead? Should I not go about it? And then,
wow.
Like the next morning they came out, and I was like, oh, how was sex last night? And,
I mean, you got to make light of it. I mean, you got to mention it.
Well, they left about a half an hour afterward. My brother likes to try to be awkward around people, but when people try to be awkward to him, he gets really embarrassed. So I love stuff like that. So Lance Storm being on the podcast and trying to be all serious would be perfect for me.
I feel like a lot of these wrestling guys too played college football. Yeah, at some level. Like Austin, he played college football. Rocky played for Miami.
Did you see the picture of The Rock that was released from when he was 16 years old?
With the mustache?
He looks like he hasn't aged.
He hasn't, dude. He's a freaking
might actually
nature.
be younger looking than he was
actually,
in that picture.
What is that Benjamin Button movie, whatever, where he like ages backwards?
Right.
I mean, yeah, dude. I mean, he's a freaking nature, and he's from the U. Just throwing it out there.
So, if I'm not mistaken, in 2002, Dustin Fox, who we had on the show, didn't he like basically single-handedly keep Miami from winning?
I mean, he definitely had.
That's just food for thought. I'm just trying.
No. I mean, no. We can talk about that for a second. Yeah, he definitely he played a big role in that. So did C. Grant on the final play of the game where he blitzed Ken Dorsey, and Dorsey. Nobody decided to block C. Grant, so Dorsey got sacked. Maurice Claret from Harding, Warren Harding, Youngstown, Ohio area, had a huge play when he stripped Sean Taylor of the ball, when Sean Taylor picked it off in the end zone, was running down the sideline. Mo Claret ripped the ball out, got the ball back for their offense. Craig Grenzel went down the field, scored. So, yeah, Dustin Fox definitely played a role in that. And I love Dustin. I absolutely do. He's an awesome guy. But he broke my heart, man. He broke my heart.
You just said a lot of words.
I did.
Really, really quickly. I think if I was to summarize that, Miami lost is the moral of the story.
Yeah, they did. And actually, from that point on, Miami has sucked ever since. Dude, whenever you guys are listening to this on iTunes or wherever you guys are listening to on the website, if you guys are listening to this, go listen to the ACC preview if it's up. That's going to be fun when we talk Miami. I'm not liable or responsible for anything I say, any action I take. I'm putting it out there right now. I'm not liable.
Well, we know you're only going to act with the utmost professional integrity. So
not at all. Straight up, not at all. I am going to just go listen to it. If you're on CFBpros.com, iTunes, podcast app, go listen to it if it's already up. If it's not, wait for it. Please wait for it. Bookmark CFBpros.com. Come back, and the end of August, I guarantee it'll be up by then. Please. I'm like shaking right now. I'm so amped. I'm ready to go, man.
Well, yeah, you sound excited.
As
long as I get a receipt to act a fool at least one time, that's fine.
Dude, that's fine. I mean, when we talk, I don't even care. You do it right now. I don't care.
I don't want to. I'm going to save it for one of those weekends where I was like uber confident about something, and then it just completely blows up in my face.
Is a cameo of your puppy in the background if anybody's hearing that. That's fine.
Yeah, well, of course. I can't do a podcast without being interrupted. That wouldn't make any kind of sense.
Well, and let's take the people behind the scenes for a second. A couple weeks ago, whenever you guys are listening to this at CFBpros.com, we were going to start recording with an individual for interview, and Nick's fire alarm went off. And smoke detectors in his house went off. And we were literally about to call this individual and be on the phone recording with him. So that's just a little bit behind the scenes fun stuff that you don't get to see. But I just put it out there. So
no, that's fine. Actually, I would go on the other side of things, and they don't actually get to see anything because this is audio.
That's true. That's true. That nobody wants to see our ugly mugs.
Yes, people have asked me, why don't you record yourselves and put it out in video form? And I just tell them, have you seen me? Like, you look at me every day. Why do you think anyone else would want to look at me?
I don't know. But, I mean, they can actually see a picture of me on my Twitter page at CFB Pros Drew.
They could see a picture of me as well at www.cfbpros.com, but not my nipples. These are no nipple pics.
No nipple. Save because the nipple.
I only send those when I'm drunk.
Yeah.
But not to you. Don't worry.
Not yet.
No nipple pics.
Not yet. I was waiting for one. Not yet. Anyhow, we've completely spiraled out of control right now.
Well, hey, that's what I'm good for. I'm still like a child with ADHD or ADD. I forget which one it is. But did you see that bunny running?
I did. I did.
Good.
It was in the pink unicorn was behind it. But yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, back to college football, which after
is that 15, what this podcast is about?
I just assumed people were they just needed noise to go to sleep, so they put this on and put it real low.
All right, let's be honest right now. How many people are still listening to this podcast at this moment?
2, because it's just you and I recording.
Right. Oh, that's true. Right now. Okay, that's not touche. Touche.
Anyway, so let's just real quick look at the Big 12, and before we hit these last 5 teams, what does a Baylor or TCU need to do to get into the college football playoff this year?
Undefeated. I mean, there's no ands, ifs, or buts about it. Undefeated, barring a complete collapse of the top teams, Ohio State, Alabama, anybody in the SEC, USC, UCLA, whoever it might be, barring a complete collapse of 2 lost teams from those conferences, a Big 12 team has to go undefeated. Has to. And the commissioner, the ADs, the presidents can say whatever they want about, we don't need a conference title game. Okay. Keep telling yourself that. And when you see the college football playoff rankings come out and you're 5th, 6th, 7th, or 8th, keep telling yourself that.
I'm right on the same page. Like I said, they're going to have to be a +1. So if the next best team is 11-1, they're going to have to be 12-0. If they're 10-2, they're going to have to be 11-1. There's just no way around it. They're going to have to be one better than everything else around them. Do you think there's a legitimate scenario? Because right now in the coaches poll, which, I mean, all we're really saying is the coaches think these are cumulatively the best idea of the strength of the teams coming in. Right now, TCU is 2 and Baylor is 4. That brings up kind of an interesting idea. If that was how things were to end at what would the likelihood or what would have to happen in that situation for those 2 teams to end up in that position at the end of the year?
I mean, I guess everybody would have to I feel like if the top 4 in preseason all went undefeated, I feel like that could work. But I want to ask you a question real fast.
Yep.
You talk about the coaches poll.
Yeah.
The coaches poll. Now, I don't know. I've never been a head football coach at Division I level. Have you?
I've never been a football player.
Okay, so
coach.
When you're in the middle of the season and you're recruiting, you're practicing, you're game planning for the next team, how many games are you watching? Are you sitting down at night when you have 10 minutes with your wife and children? Are you watching other games? Or are you like, you know what, I'm going to disconnect. I'm just going to spend time with my family. I'm going to eat some dinner. I'm going to relax. I'm going to watch some Cheers. I'm going to, listen to some College Football Pros podcast. The coaches poll is the biggest joke in college football.
First of all, the coaches poll should have 128 people.
Yeah.
For first place votes. There should be 128 different first place votes, unless the policy is you can't vote for your own team.
I think that is a policy, actually.
Is it? Okay. So there should be 128 second place votes.
Yeah. I mean, but very seriously, though, like, it's a complete joke and a complete laughable statement that the coaches poll means anything, because the coaches poll, they're looking at their assistant, they're looking at their, secretaries and going, hey, who won last night? Other than you're looking at your conference. I understand that. You look at your conference and you look at the scores. But do you think Nick Saban is looking at MAC scores? You think Bob Stoops is looking at Sunbelt?
Nick Saban is too busy being angry about unauthorized biographies about him.
Yeah, that's I did see that. Also a joke. But no, very seriously, like, it's laughable, right?
Yeah, I mean, I just used it because it's literally the only thing that's come out.
No, I'm not saying, you're not smart.
It
for
is no,
that, but it's a joke.
You're absolutely right. It's meaningless. Just like the first time they release a college football playoff ranking, what does it matter? You're 7 weeks away from having a final decision. I don't care what you think right now. It's irrelevant because whatever you think right now doesn't matter. So you're wasting a half an hour of my time, by going through a scenario that is 0.00001% likely to happen because somebody is going to lose. Not all the top 4 teams that are on the first playoff show are going to make it till the end. I think that's pretty much a likelihood every year.
Yeah, and we've said this before that, all that is a money grab. All that is for advertising and to keep college football in the minds of people. And they do a great job at that. ESPN, Fox, all these, channels and all these companies keep college football in the minds and the NFL. I mean, we all know about the NFL. But, that's all it is. And in my opinion, you should have one ranking at the end of the season for the playoffs, for the top 25, for everything. This preseason polls are a joke. If you want to have, 2 polls, maybe one at the midpoint and one at the end, I'd be okay with that. But every week, the preseason, get out of here.
Yeah, I think ultimately the best idea is to just bring back the BCS.
Oh, my God. We're breaking up. This podcast is over. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in. We'll see you next week.
I'm in a complete agreement. The only reason I'm fine with it is because ultimately I do believe it is in an attempt to increase the scope of college football, and that is what we want. We want the sport to grow. We want more avenues to open up for availability of college football on television, in the press, just more opportunity, more programs. That helps us. That helps us in terms of this podcast. That helps us in terms of being fans, and then part of our podcast is a daily fantasy perspective. So the more attention being drawn to the sport ultimately is going to drive more money towards the daily fantasy aspect, and I believe it was Fox Sports just had an article about how college football was basically the fastest growing segment of fantasy sports. Is that correct?
Yeah, they did. I saw that the other day. They released a long article and a lot of info and stats. I haven't read the whole thing yet, but from what I've seen other people, breaking it down, it was an awesome article. So, yeah, I encourage everybody to check that out.
So, yeah, I mean, ultimately it serves its purpose. I don't think there's a scenario. I personally believe, because of the bias that exists, the only conference that has a high likelihood of having 2 participants is...
You're going to make me say it, aren't you? It's the SEC.
Absolutely.
Yeah, SEC.
And I think, would you agree with me on that?
Oh, no, I do agree. I just hate saying it because it's a joke. I cannot stand the narrative that the SEC is so much better than everybody. It's like that school, wherever you're listening to this from, and there are great 50 states or different countries. We all had that one school in the area, the one high school they thought they were better than everybody.
Who was yours?
Well, I mean, mine was Poland.
So was mine. That's weird.
Well, it's weird because you went to their rival school. I went to a smaller school down the road, but they just had that sense about it. And I know people from Poland, and if anybody from the Valley is listening to this, please do not take that offensively. But man, they just that stuck up, the Greenwich, the Triple H old gimmick, the snob, and I feel like that's what the SEC is, and that's what they're portrayed as, and I hate it.
Yeah, that was a good little promo you cut there. That was really seething.
Dude, I'm fired up today. I don't know what's going on that we made today, man, but I'm fired up.
Yeah, that's great because we're about to jump right back in where we left off yesterday with the Big 12. We're going to start with Oklahoma State. 2014, they had the 54th ranked passing offense, the 102nd ranked rushing offense, the 85th overall offense, the 113th passing defense, the 59th ranked rushing defense, the 93rd ranked overall defense. They scored 27.6 points. They allowed 31.2. And I think here is a good time to look at one specific statistic because it's recurring in, I literally think 80%, 60 to 80% of these teams, a passing defense over 100. What does that say to you?
Nothing good.
See, I almost take a different approach to it, and I say really what that's indicative of in most scenarios is that a lot of these teams are scoring a lot of points. So the team is going to do what? The team is going
You have to pass. Yeah.
Right. Now, that's not how it goes with Oklahoma State, because with the other teams, they were giving up 24.2 points. Oklahoma State was giving up 31.2 points per game, so there is a better correlation there between the yards being given up and points being scored, whereas teams like Baylor, look, it was because they're scoring 5 more touchdowns than the other team. The other team has to do something to try to catch up.
Yeah, I mean, those TCU Baylor games of the world, they were score on every drive, and that's, when you score on every drive and you stop the other team once, twice in a game, you win the game, obviously, and they can do that. But this Oklahoma State team, the quarterback position to me is so. It's the Big 12, so the quarterback position is going to be huge no matter what. But this team with Mason Rudolph, J.W. Walsh, big issue, because I don't want either of these guys starting. To be very honest with you, I want their true freshman Kenneth McGrew. I'm sorry, that's the defensive back coming in. John Kohler from Norman, Oklahoma coming in. I think this guy as a true freshman has the ability to start, and I think with the inconsistencies of Rudolph and of Walsh, I think he can start. Just my opinion.
Honestly, I'm not horribly against Mason Rudolph. He is returning his receiving threats, which is a big deal. It's his second year in the offense. I think he could hit 3,000 yards. Brandon Shepard, David Glidden, James Washington, good O-line protection. Mike Gundy has been pretty consistent with doing that throughout his career. My big question mark here is Desmond Rowland's gone. Tyreek Hill's booted off the program. You need someone to run the ball. It looks like there's a good JC transfer named Chris Carson who has the first crack. I think he could be in a good position on this offense if he's able to take that step up in competition.
Yeah, I mean, him or the Childs kid who's, returning with 3 touchdowns from last year. I've seen that against that. But, yeah, I agree. I think Carson is the guy to take this position. But, again, with this passing offense, not sure how much they're going to utilize him. Whoever the quarterback is, the defense returns 7 starters. And, again, the defensive backfield has been laughable, and they're going to get exploited again this year. And I hate saying that. I hate making teams feel bad. You know what I mean?
I feel bad because, so we'll tweet at certain players, when we release our podcast. If we said something good about them, we'll be like, we think blank is going to have such a great year. And then I'm like, if they listen to it, I hope that they're not upset that we're, tearing their team apart.
Don't they have to know? If you play for Kansas, if you play for Iowa State, if you play for these lower teams in these conferences, don't you know? Or is your mindset coming in going, I play for Kansas, we're going to win the national title?
No, I think it's a combination of both. I think you're aware of where your struggles are at, but you don't want to be like, it's going to be a tough year. You want to be like, well, we're going to work hard. So we don't have to have that luxury. It doesn't matter if Kansas has a poor defense because it really doesn't have anything to do with us. We don't have anything that falls back on us if they have a bad defense, but the players do. You know what I mean?
No, I agree with that. Yeah,
I just think that it's a situation at this school that's unfortunate. They play tough competition, which certainly doesn't help their cause. They're trying to improve, and then they get smashed with all these powerhouse offenses. How are you really honestly supposed to get ahead when a team scores 62 points on you? That rattles your confidence, and then when you go and play another team the following week, you're going to have that in the back of your mind, this team just put a whooping on us. We don't want that to happen again. A lot of times that's not a motivating factor. A lot of times they're mentally tired from replaying the situation over and over in their head. I don't know. I think this team still has a little ways to go before it can really be a force in the Big 12.
Yeah, I agree. And I like Mike Gundy as a coach. I would take him at Miami any day of the week. I think honestly that he'll move away from Oklahoma State in a couple years because these coaches are going to start retiring and you're going to start having some big time programs, have some turnover. And I think Mike Gundy's a name that's going to be brought up for the top 5, you know what I mean, of maybe the Alabamas of the world, because there's going to come a time where Nick Saban's not the Alabama head coach. I don't know if anybody wants to believe that, but that will come a time where that's going to happen. So I think his name is thrown around in a big boy level. Top 5.
Yeah, he's definitely one to be taken seriously. And if we're going to move on to a school that's going to be taken seriously, it's TCU. 7th ranked passing offense, the 36th ranked rushing offense, the 5th ranked overall offense, the 77th ranked passing defense, the 9th ranked rushing defense, the 18th overall defense. They scored the second most points at 46.5, and they gave up the 8th least at 19 last year. And this team's just a monster.
Yeah, you return 10 offensive starters. The only position you don't return a starter is at your right tackle or your tackle position. Wow, I don't know. This is going to be a team with Aaron Green, Boykin, Listenby, Dawson, Gray. You can just keep going. Even the backups are fantastic. So this team is going to put up points all over the place. This team is going to be fantastic on offense. The defense hopefully is good enough. So we'll see how it goes.
Where does Boykin land on your Heisman list right now?
Yeah, I definitely think thanks. I can speak English. I definitely think he gets invited to New York at the end of the season. I don't know. For me, he's probably 2 or 3. I think right now Ezekiel Elliott is my number 1. I think Nick Chubb is up there. I think Cody Kessler, if they have a good season, I think he's got to be there. So I definitely think Boykin's in the mix. I don't know. I mean, man, that's a tough question. Very honestly, that's why I hesitate to answer it, because we can sit here at the beginning of the season and talk about all these players, but I'm thinking so fast in my head I can't even get my thoughts out.
Think about it like this. We talked about it in the previous podcast. Had Ohio State lost to Penn State later in the year, the whole playoff picture could have been an entirely different animal. That run that they had been on that forced them into such an underdog position is part of the narrative that at the end of the day sold the committee on them. And if that's not there and they lose midway through the season, there's a chance they could still make it. There's maybe even a good chance they still make it, but definitely more of the tension is going to be on Baylor and TCU at that point. So the moral of that story is that the Ohio State team of last year is a perfect illustration of how everything has to fall perfectly to win something major like that. You know what I mean?
I totally agree.
One ebb or flow in many different directions, and we're talking about a different picture altogether. Who knows? Cardale Jones might be going to the NFL instead of coming. You just don't know.
No, absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think Boykin is a Heisman favorite right now. We'll say that.
Yeah, I at this point am trying to refrain from doing things like picking Heisman winners. I've kind of got a list of people, like you said, Boykin, Kessler. I'm definitely a little more quarterback heavy in my corner as opposed to the running backs, but anything can happen. This team is just a monster, like you said. I mean, I think Aaron Green has the potential in his sleep in this offense to hit 1,000 yards and double-digit scores, and that's just 1,000 on the ground. I mean, he's going to catch him out of the backfield. He's going to be used all over the place. Dawson, Listenby, and Gray are just going to spread things out and give Boykin all the time and opportunity he needs. And, Boykin can also do it with his feet. So,
yeah, he's definitely a dual threat guy.
The only thing that really kind of concerns me here, Drew, you return 0 linebacking starts.
Yeah, that's an issue with an offense like that. Your defense is going to be on the field, more so than you would like. But I think that Gary Patterson has recruited Texas and Oklahoma very well. So I'm excited for this defense because they've lost so much that you don't know what you're getting in return, and back. So I think this defense has the ability, especially in the defensive backfield, where they have some serious playmakers, maybe not the returning starts, as you like to illustrate, but they have a lot of returning experience and a lot of returning talent.
Moving on to a team, an area that you just mentioned in Texas, they had the 90th ranked passing offense, the 101st ranked rushing offense, the 113th overall offense, the 11th ranked passing defense, the 61st ranked rushing defense, the 26th ranked overall defense. They scored 21.5 points. They allowed 23.8. Where are you at this year with the Longhorns?
Man, gone are the days of Colt McCoy and Jordan Shipley, right? I mean, long gone. This team is so confusing to me because you're Texas. You should be getting every 5-star, every 4-star recruit from the state. But like you said with TCU, I think those players are going there. So this team, I don't know. This team is going to be middle of the road, Big 12. The offense is unspectacular. I know you're high on Swoops at the quarterback position. But again, Charlie Strong, I don't see it. I don't know where the excitement from this team is. And that's so sad to say because Texas is such a great program.
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely not say I'm high on Swoops. Here's my take on Swoops. Swoops as a kid, I think, has a lot of talent. He could be used in a very diversified manner, but he isn't putting it together. He isn't taking that step ahead. You know, he's going to get another shot, but you don't win with a 1-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio. You know, especially with fans like the Texas Longhorns have. The team adds a very highly athletic freshman in Jared Hurd. I really think that this is a situation just like in Kansas where the quarterback is on a very, very tight leash, and it could be as soon as the first blip on the radar that the coach doesn't like, he could be gone. The offensive line should be good. I've heard, early on that the offensive line looks great. I've heard that Jonathan Gray is going to get all the workload he could handle. Malcolm Brown is gone. You know, it could be true. I always hesitate to believe coach speak. You know, I don't believe coaches are honest. Just bluntly, they don't have any reason to be. Not a huge fan of the receiving corps. They lose a lot. They have talent though. You know, it's just going to be a matter of what could step up. And on defense, look, I think this is a really strong defense. I'm a big fan, basically, in all of the units, and honestly, the defensive backs especially. So I think that it's very, very reasonable to assume that they're going to stay under allowing 25 points, but it's irrelevant if you're putting up 21.5 points a game.
Yeah, this defense has a ton of talent. They've recruited 5-star guys all over the field. But again, if you're not coaching them up right, it doesn't matter. And I agree with you. The defensive backfield might be the best in the nation. However, if they're on the field for 65% of the game, I don't care how good you are. You're going to get tired. You're going to get banged up. You're going to get hurt. You're going to give up points. And they did that a lot last year.
That's to me, it all comes down to what they could do on offense. If they could take some of that, if they could take some of the, if they could just give the defense a better breather, I guess is what I'm saying. Give them some time to rest. Put the points on the board. This is an entire different situation this year. You know?
No, it really is.
So you just have to hope, if you're a Texas fan, that either Swoops gets better or they're willing to just cut the cord on him and try to build something else with the freshman coming in. You know, it'll be an interesting year at Texas. It
will. I completely agree with that.
Staying in the Lone Star State, we will move on to Texas Tech, who in 2014 had the 5th-ranked passing offense, the 82nd-ranked rushing offense, the 10th-ranked overall offense, the 98th-ranked passing defense, the 5th-worst rushing defense, the 4th-worst overall defense. They scored 30.5 points a game, and they gave up the 3rd most in the nation at 41.3. What do we see from the Red Raiders in 2015?
I think the two guys that this offense revolves around, Jakeem Crane at the receiver spot, DeAndre Washington at the running back spot. Quarterback-wise, I have not a clue what Cliff Kingsbury is doing. They have two guys that, Patrick Mahomes II and Davis Webb. Both guys very talented, in this offensive scheme where it's just throw the ball. So I'm high on this team because I like the potential. And again, that's a horrible thing to say because you never want to go on potential. But I think this team has the potential, in my opinion. This is my sleeper team in the Big 12 this year.
I'm going to rephrase what you said a little bit. I'm going to correct you a little bit if you don't mind.
Yeah, all day.
I like the offensive potential of this team. That's my take. I don't like the defensive potential of this team.
Well, they do return 7 starters in the whole defensive backfield. Both corners, both safeties. I think another year in the weight room, year in the offense and defense, I think this team takes a big step forward.
You're certainly entitled to your opinion, and I would love to see it happen. In my opinion, at the quarterback position, it's Patrick Mahomes. He's got a good arm, posted a much, much better touchdown to interception ratio than Davis Webb. His completion percentage is definitely worrisome. He needs to get over that 60% mark. I think he's well equipped to go 4,000 yards. In addition, he's better on his feet, and I think that's something that Texas Tech could really use, is a quarterback that can maneuver around a little bit. Now, what I don't think is sustainable is DeAndre Washington, because this is a passing team. He went over 1,100 yards. I don't see that happening again, and that's frustrating because I think both Washington and Justin Stockton are highly talented people, dynamic backs, but what's it really matter on a team that doesn't run the ball that much?
Yeah, and I don't disagree with that statement. However, what I'm going to say to that is I think this team is better on all aspects of the game. So therefore, I think they're going to be up in a lot of games. And I think that guys like Washington and Stockton see a lot more in the third and fourth quarters. They'll see the field a lot more. And a guy on the offensive side of the ball who I'm extremely high on is receiver Devin Lauderdale Jr. breakout season.
Yeah, I have him pegged as in my notes for him specifically to take a bigger role with Marquez out of the offense. I still look for Jakeem Grant to be the top dog, but I think Lauderdale is right behind him. And then I actually have Sadler above Reginald Davis. Reginald Davis basically had all of his production in one game last year. He had 300 and some yards and like 5 scores, but he had a $150 and 2 or 3 scores in one game. So he's not used as much. I think Sadler, Grant, and Lauderdale are going to be the guys here. To finish things off, we'll move to West Virginia. The 9th-ranked passing offense, the 45th ranked rushing offense, the 12th overall offense, the 73rd passing defense, the 65th rushing defense, the 68th overall defense. They scored 33.5 points. They allowed 27.6, and this is another team that's going to be going through a dramatic change on the offensive side of the ball.
Yeah, I don't know this team. I don't know where they fit into the Big 12. They're a team that in history has told us that they have 1 to 2 really good classes of recruits that come in, and then they fall off the face of the earth for another 4 to 5 years, and then they come the cycle again. So I think this year with all the losses that they had coming into this year, I think running back wise, with Shell, I think he's going to be the number one guy because the quarterback position is so unsettled. And other than that, man, I don't see a lot of potential. Talking about potential on Texas Tech, I don't see a lot of potential on this offense to put up the points as they did last year.
Ditto. I think, you're definitely going to go down a notch. Skylar Howard, I think, is a step below Clint Trickett right now. His completion percentage was basically 50%, which is not good, but he went 8 touchdowns and no interceptions, so there is definitely a plus there.
Yeah, that is in minimal action, so you take that with a grain of salt. But you're right. 8-0 is when you throw 0 interceptions, that's always a good thing.
Right. You lose Kevin White, you lose Mario Alford, so that's 2,400 yards of production. The only interesting note I have here, other than Jordan Thompson, I think he was going to probably play a prominent role, is Holgorsen seems to really like this kid, William Crest. He's actually a quarterback, but I've seen some reports surfacing that Holgorsen wants him on the field so badly that he might put him at wide receiver. So there's just something to put in your pocket. Number one, because if a coach likes him and takes him under his wing, they might try to design some things around him. And number two, if things go downhill and injuries start happening, you could be looking at a fantasy situation where there's a starting quarterback at wide receiver.
Yeah, which is always a positive, right?
Absolutely. When you're playing fantasy, you want to take guys who have the ball in their hand more. You know what I mean? So if a quarterback is at wide receiver, there's not many offenses I can think of where anyone's touching the ball more than the quarterback. You could argue the running back, but it's going to be the quarterback's hands first. So
yeah, they have the ability to audible a lot of plays and stuff. So if they come up to the line and say, "Hey, it's going to be a run," hey, I'm audible to a pass, and then you have that power. So, in that situation, I agree with you that the quarterback is most important, especially if the quarterback is always about a receiver. Wow.
Right. I think overall the defense is in a good position. They lose the top guy on the defensive line, pull in 2 talented junior college transfers. Think there's a small step back. The linebackers return enough where I think they can improve. The defensive back return most of their starters, so I'm not calling for like a dominant defense, but I think that they're better than they're a top 40% defense.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, with 9 starters, and I've seen anywhere up to 12 guys that have been back with some kind of legit playing experience. So I think this defense has the capability to be good, but I still see them a notch below all the other Big 12 defenses, and especially heading against these high-powered Big 12 offenses. So I don't know. I see them going Bolden, but I don't see them getting much past a winning season.
So the final question for the Big 12 is Baylor or TCU, and why?
Why does it got to be one of those two teams?
Are you going to honestly tell me Oklahoma?
No.
So are you going to tell me Texas Tech?
Yeah, I was going to go out on a huge limb, but no. Man, I mean, when it comes down to Baylor and TCU, I got to take the team with the proven quarterback, and that is TCU.
I'm on board with you there, and I don't want to sell short Oklahoma. And it's sad for these words to come out of my mouth, but I really do mean it. But they have to prove something first.
Yeah, I mean, you can be all the hype in the world. You can come in ranked high every single year, but you know what? At the end of the day, if you're getting embarrassed in bowl games, and if you're getting embarrassed in home games, this Oklahoma team has to regain all the faith, and they've lost everything.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. And if anyone else disagrees with you, where can they find you?
You can always find me on the Twitter machine at CFBProsDrew. And if they want to send you any kind of cuddly or angry tweets, where can they find you?
At CFBPros on Twitter, College Football Pros on Facebook, www.cfbpros.com on the internet. Folks, we will see you next time. Have a great day.